Welcome to the test drive for dynamically increasing website capacity. In this demo, we'll show you how two of the feature scenarios of Windows Server 2008 can allow your company's websites to dynamically respond to a heavy workload. In previous versions of Windows, creating a web farm which consisted of many web servers was a complex task involving application synchronization and the maintenance and configuration of more than one server. It was also fairly difficult to add and remove servers from your server farms. Windows Server 2008 with IIS 7 makes this process very quick and very easy. And in this demonstration, we'll show you how you can do something as simply as logging an event and have that cause a web server to be added to your web farm, all with a simple command line. So let's begin by looking at how shared configuration is actually configured. And here I have a web server, and if you look at the path on the website, you can see that it's pointing at a local disk. If I want to implement a shared web farm, I need to move both the content and configuration to a shared file server. In this case, I've already gone ahead and done that, and I've backed up the shared configuration, and I'm going to go ahead and restore it. To do this, I'm just going to run a script very quickly, which we'll come back and examine shortly. Once the configuration is restored, you'll see that the website is now being stored on a shared file server, and the configuration of that server is also stored on that shared file server. And we can actually view that by looking again at our basic settings and see that it is indeed changed. Now let's start looking at how we can add a second server to this configuration. To do this, I'm going to use some pre-created scripts which you saw briefly before. What I've done is configured each one of my servers in a shared and standalone configuration, and then I've taken a backup of each of those configurations, and I can now use WinRS to either restore either one of those configurations from a remote computer, change the server farm from a standalone configuration to using a shared configuration, which you saw a quick example of earlier. Migrating back from a shared configuration to a standalone is the same process. And in this case, I've used an apt command to create a backup of the standalone configuration and can restore that configuration on any remote computer utilizing the WinRM script that you briefly saw before. If you want to actually have a look at this script, we can actually edit the standalone script. You can see my WinRS. I'm pointing out to the server, and effectively I'm restoring that information back from a centralized point. The other script where I was having a shared shows me a very similar view. So if I go and click on that standalone script again, I'm sending that configuration file out to my IIS machine, and we should be able to see that go into effect by looking at our basic settings again. You'll see that my physical path has now moved into my local web. When you combine the ability to quickly restore configurations to migrate from standalone to shared remotely utilizing WinRM with the new task-based events feature in Windows Server 2008, you have the framework for a very powerful system which can dynamically respond to conditions on the network. So in this example, I have an application that will raise two events. Let's go and quickly have a look at that. It raises an event 950 when it's reaching its capacity, and then raises an event 951 when there is light load on the server. What I've done is created an event trigger on event 950, which runs my convert to shared batch file. So if I simulate an application logging error 950, we should actually see the web server migrate to the shared configuration automatically. So let's actually go and do this. And if you want to know more about event triggers, we actually have a test drive which focuses on those within the Windows Server 2008 test series. One of the great things about event triggers is I can not only run scripts from them, but I also can provide warning messages. So for example, here it's actually telling me my web application has reached capacity and a new web server has been brought online and added to the web farm. I can then go back to that web server, look at my basic settings, and we should see that the physical path has changed into web shared content, and I can actually go and view that from the website view information as well. And when opening this web page, I should be pointing at my shared content web page. Likewise, if I log event 951, the server should migrate back to its standard configuration. And let's actually have a look at that. And we can easily test this by just refreshing my website page, and you can see now that I've migrated back to my standalone file server configuration. In this demo, you've seen how you can use the features of Windows Server 2008 and iOS 7 to automatically add servers to a web farm in response to system events. These features really give administrators new options to be able to dynamically respond to the changing conditions in any environment. Thank you.